All right, assalamu alaikum, everyone. Shalom Islam to all the Moors. Welcome to the free astro theology course. So, I'm traveling right now and I don't have the textbook, so I'm going to do something out of the devil's pulpit. I didn't realize that I would finish Virgo during my trip, but it's done. So let's do the lecture on Freemasonry, part 1. Okay, so the lecture on Freemasonry, part 1 in the devil's pulpit. This is a very, very, I think this is an essential chapter, or lecture rather, for all of us. And y'all are soon gonna see why. You're soon gonna see why. Okay, so let's begin. This is page 238. All right, 238. So it's at the back of the book. Lecture on Freemasonry, part 1. Delivered by His Highness's chaplain. Y'all know who he's talking about. They branded him as the devil's chaplain, or the devil's preacher. All right, so this is, he's making mockery of them. He's doing judo, like the way they called us a nigger and nigga, to put us down. And now I guess people say they flip it and use it in a positive way. Well, that's what he's doing by calling himself His Highness's chaplain. The Reverend Robert Taylor, at the Rotunda, Blackfriars Road. Okay, Blackfriars Road, April 10th, 1831. So this lecture was given almost 200 years ago. Almost 200 years ago. So you have to ask yourself, why is it that your Moshe General, Bishop, Chaplain, Priest, Preacher, Pastor, Reverend, why haven't they told you about this? Okay, so let's get into it. This scripture is coming from Hebrews. Keep that in mind. Hebrews. Chapter 10, verse 28 through 30. All right. This is how it reads. He that despised Moses' law died without mercy under 2 or 3 witnesses. All right, so there you go. 2 or 3 witnesses. We see that in civics, right? Of how much more sorer, how much more severe punishment, suppose ye shall he be thought worthy, who have trodden under the foot of the Son, the S-O-N, Son of God, capital G-O-D, and have counted the blood of the covenant wherewith he was sanctified in unholy things. So in other words, he's disrespected the blood of the covenant. Right? What covenant? The Mosaic covenant. And then, of course, they're saying there's a new covenant, which is the New Testament. Right, y'all? And then in nature, the covenants come from what? The Passover and the crucifixion, which is the vernal equinox, March 22nd, where the sun crosses over. The covenant, right? The covenant of labor. There's your first pillar, the covenant of labor. The sun enters into the kingdom of the heavens and it falls, gets humiliated, and then the sun crosses below the celestial equator on September 22nd, which is the autumn or fall equator. These are your 2 pillars. All right, the two covenants. All right, the two covenants. The spring equinox and the fall equinox. In religion, it's the Old Testament or the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. Y'all see it? All right. And actually, that's where you get the 11, or the 1 and the 1, and then the 2 and the 2, 2 plus. Oh, you're so kind. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, Asian hospitality is they have very hospitable people. Okay, everybody see that? So the two pillars, so 1 plus 1 is 2, right? Anyway, that's where you get the 1 and the 1 and the 2 and the 2 and the 3 and the 3 and, and the 9. Starting from there, the covenant. Okay, y'all. In fact, I'm a little bit tired right now, but if I get the energy, once I get going, if I get the energy, I'm going to take you through the covenant. All right? So you can see the relationship between the concrete or the natural phenomena, which is the covenant, spring and fall equinox, and then the abstract remix, Old Covenant, New Covenant. Okay, y'all? I'll take you through that. I just got to get my energy up. It continues. So, of course, we know who the S-O-N, Son of God, is, right? That's the S-O-N, is the S-U-N, and God the Father, etc., and everything else about God that we have discussed so many times, and hath counted the blood of the covenant, wherewith he was sanctified an unholy thing. You mean to tell me, I'm speaking in nature, do you mean to tell me you disrespect the springtime? You disrespect what springtime does for you and your household, your kinfolk? You disrespect that? You have no respect for that? Do you mean to tell me that you disrespect the fall? Y'all understand what's happening here? When the sun crosses below the celestial equator, everything that's dead deteriorates, becomes decomposed, and then its nutrients, what's remaining, the nutrients are then used by plant life to feed the next generation. So the next generation of vegetation can grow in the spring. Now remember, the orientation is the north, northwest, the Maghrib al-Aqsa, northwest of Mexico, northwest America. Y'all hear it? You mean you don't appreciate the cycle of life? The spring gives you the harvest. You don't appreciate that? Oh, see, that's big time disrespect for nature, right? That's the point. That's the point. And see, we are land. We are thought made manifest from the land. So if you disrespect that, you disrespect yourself. And if you disrespect yourself, you disrespect all there is and all there ever was and all there will ever be, which is thought, the function of the mind, awareness, intelligence, all awareness, all intelligence, all knowing, all imagination, all creativity, all consciousness. Okay, whatever there could possibly be is that. Okay, at varying vibrations. Okay, the Hermetic Law of vibration. Anyway, let's keep it going. He continues, and hath done despite unto the Spirit of grace. Well, grace is the fall or autumn equinox, because that's when Mother Earth gives you her abundance. And especially the sweet grape, the sweet grapes, the sweet grape juice that we use to make sweet wine. So you have something to drink in the winter. So you have something to keep you warm in the winter time. Y'all see it? And you disrespect that? You disrespect the covenant of grace? That sweet wine, this, when you're cold, you drink it, it's going to make you feel warm? That's going to fill your storehouses so you have something to eat, you and yours? So that your heirs, you don't have to watch your heirs die of starvation. You can feed them and see the joy and the happiness and the bond that you create. You're disrespecting the covenant of grace that I gave you for free at birth. No, that's terrible. Y'all see it? That's terrible. That's a terrible violation of natural law. Disrespect. Okay, now let's continue. For we know him that hath said, vengeance belongeth to me. In nature, and literally, what this vengeance means, and if I remember correctly, that's coming out of Isaiah 61. Vengeance means the vintage process or the wine-making process. The wine-making process belongs to me. So saith the Lord. The wine-making process belongs to me. Nobody else. See, when JC performed his first miracle in Cana, what was it called? The marriage feast of Cana? When it rained, I think in ancient times, the Hebrew deity that made precipitation, its name was Rain. The Father rain. Y'all see it? So the rain, the masculine precipitation, the sperm, the semen, will come from the Father rain onto the earth. Right? The semen would be injected into the vagina and travel up until it meets the egg, right? In the uterus. And then Mother Earth becomes impregnated by the precipitation, by the rain. So now Mama is pregnant. All right? And then the SUN sun makes the soil very fertile. In other words, it makes the womb strong, makes the uterus strong enough to hold that baby. Y'all hear me? And then in July, of course, the intense heat of the sun's rays makes the soil, makes earth especially, let's say prolific, right? I can't think of a better word. Especially prolific, highly energetic, full of solar energy, which pushes the mature fruit on the vegetation, pushes them into ripeness. All right, pushes them into becoming ripe for the harvest. Y'all see it? And now Mama Earth gives you her yield and superabundance and geometric abundance. That's the harvest. And the last day of the gathering in of the grapes where you can get sweet wine is September 29th. After that, anything you squeeze out of a grape, any juice you get out of a grape is going to be sour, only good for making vinegar. So the Most High says the wine making process is mine. That's why JC's first miracle was to convert water precipitation, water into wine. Okay, y'all? That's a remix. That Bible story is a remix of the natural phenomena that I just shared with you. All right? So yes, vengeance belongeth to me. I will recompense. See, that's a remix. I will recompense. When you go through the story in nature or the vintage winemaking process, well, if you're in that vat and you're squashing the grapes with your feet, and you got grape juice all over you, right? Your clothes are red, full of the blood of the grapes, okay? And you're smashing those grapes, right? And the wine is smelling good. But the owner of the vintage, the owner of that company, that factory, or that let's say that outfit rather, he warns his employees. He says, hey, don't be up there drinking wine. Don't be up there drinking that wine while you're working, because if you get drunk, or you get tipsy even, and you slip into that vat, it's over. You're a goner. Dead. Y'all heard? If you slip into that wine vat, you are going to die. So don't go up there drinking. Like Richard Pryor said, don't go around them Jews messing around without no money. Boy, I done told you, don't go effing with them Jews without no money. That tickled me to death when I was a little kid, when I heard that. And you know, it was so funny to me, and I could relate to it because I was raised in an Orthodox Jewish community, and I know what they are like. All right, I know what they are like from personal experience. I know how they treat people. Cruel. The police department there where I grew up, they used to call it Gestapo Heights. Gestapo. And it was run by the Jewish community. And people who look like me, they would ride around. They didn't want to go through that city because they knew they would be stopped, harassed, arrested for nothing, right? You know, but what they were doing at that time, they were telling you, don't come through here, right? Don't come through here. That was the message behind that, why they were doing that kind of thing. But it was a terrible place. Terrible. For us. For people who look like me. But anyway, my point is, well, what happened to it? My point is, when you hear vengeance belongeth to me, and you think that the Most High is going to go out and start slaughtering people, taking revenge on people. But no, the word actually means vintage or the winemaking process. So religion has remixed that into a scary doctrine, right? Their whole objective is to scare you to death, to get you to comply and conform. Get that 10% out of you, get the land out of you, whatever you have a value, to get that out of you, all right? Okay, and to control what you perceive and what you do, all right? That's what it's about. Okay, so vengeance belongeth to me, vengeance is mine, I will recompense with the Lord, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God, capital G-O-D. That's coming, this whole verse I just read came from Hebrews chapter 10. verse 28 through 30. Now, it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. Is a remix of the instructions given to the employees of the vintage that I just mentioned to you. When they're up there working in that wine, don't drink it. If you can't help it, don't, if you know, drink some, but don't get tipsy up there, because if you fall into that vat, it is a fearful thing, because you surely will expire. It's over. Now, who's going to take care of your heirs? Right? Your consort is now going to be a widow. Your heirs will be fatherless. Okay, y'all? So it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. It is a fearful thing to fall into that wine vat. Especially when it could have been avoided if you wasn't up there drinking. All right, y'all? Now, you can get this information that I'm sharing with you. It's in the Devil's Pulpit. That's where I got it. All right? Nothing special about me. I'm just reading the books. And I'm sharing the books with y'all. I give you the book title. I tell you when they're published. I tell you the author. When I can, I give you a link to the free PDF. I'm not keeping nothing from you. I even read through the books so that you can understand them. I'm not hiding anything from you. Okay? But what happens, and it's very unfortunate, usually what will happen, and I'm not putting anybody down, I'm talking about the culture. This is a problem with the culture. People expect entertainment. And they want you to talk about, or they prefer to watch, look at pictures and images, and hear someone talk about something. They want to hear you talk about it, hear your opinion as a form of entertainment, so that they can relax and they don't have to do anything. That has its place. But what I'm doing also has its place. Some people used to contact me complaining, you read too much, or you don't show pictures. Now, I can kind of understand pictures. But they're not required. That's why you have this, an imagination. So if you can't function without pictures, that means that what? Your imagination is lazy. You need to develop your imagination. You've been watching too much TV, too much YouTube. Your imagination is weak. All right, so I guess my point is this has its place. And this is the way to learn, right? The best way to learn is through reading and imagination, all right? Reading and imagination. So what I'm doing, maybe it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, right? But for those who it is for, appreciate the work that I'm doing. And that's all I really care about, all right? So don't be up there drinking. So here we go, y'all. Here we go. Now, isn't it interesting, though? Isn't it interesting that the author opens up his lecture on Freemasonry, the very first lecture, with a verse from Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 30. Now, we all know, we've heard about the meaning of Hebrews, right? It's a people. On one level, it's a people. On another level, it means those who crossed over a body of water. People argue about what the body of water is. People argue about who the people are. But this is how he opens up. the lecture on Freemasonry. Isn't that a curious thing? And also, let me throw this in here. You'll not hear this. This is my opinion. Hebrews are those who crossed over from the plane of thought to the plane of the physical, which is those who are thought made manifest from the soil. That's the crossover, those who have crossed over. From my point of view. That's just my point of view. Okay. So now, anyway, let's keep that in mind, Hebrews. And all the confusion around this word Hebrews. See, confusion is like smoke. It's like smoke and mirrors. Let's get with the first paragraph. The epistle, the letter to the Hebrews is, as I shall prove, the composition. In other words, it was written by the composition of some royal arc mason. Royal arc from the sun passing over the celestial equator, which is the spring equinox. It rises to its, not zenith, but what is it, y'all? The highest point, I don't remember the term. The highest point in the sky, in the northern part of space, summer solstice, which is June 21, 22. That's the highest that it's going to get. Then it begins to fall. It crosses below, remember, it crosses below the celestial equator. It is crucified. Christ gets crucified on September 22nd every year. So, spring equinox, fall equinox, the sun ascending into the kingdom of the heavens, and then it crosses below, okay, falls into the southern hemisphere. All right, so this is the royal arc. That's the royal arc, okay? The kingdom of the heavens. From March 22nd to September 22nd. The sun ascending and descending is the royal arc. Y'all got it? Remixed into a club. Remixed into a club. All right? So the letter to the Hebrews, as I shall prove, the composition is written by some royal arc mason, veiling the mysteries, hiding the natural phenomena, hiding natural law, veiling the mysteries of Masonic craft under a sort of language whose sense and purpose has escaped. This speech was given in 1831. So this author is saying, listen, y'all, the author is saying that the meaning has been lost. It's been lost. Listen. Veiling the mysteries of the Masonic craft. Now remember, Masonry and Freemasonry are two different things. Okay? Masonry, my son, civics, nature. Veiling the mysteries of the Masonic craft under a sort of language. Do y'all see Jeremiah 8:8 in there? Y'all see Jeremiah 8:8? They changed the language, right? They made natural law into a series of beliefs and doctrines and ceremonies, rituals, religion. Y'all see it, Jeremiah 8:8. So veiling these mysteries under a sort of language whose sense and purpose, talking about the sense and purpose of the language, has escaped. So how are you going to know what it means if you don't understand the language? If you don't understand the purpose, how are you going to understand or know what it means? This is exactly what Jeremiah 8 verse 8 says. Read it in the Amplified Bible version. It's more easy to understand, but you can read it in all the versions. It's going to say the same thing. And been intended to escape the penetration of all but the Freemasons of the Hebraic degree. In other words, they wanted to wipe it out of the memory of everyone. Well, how would they do it? Through changing the language. He just told you, through changing the language. Does everyone see it? And the only people who would understand, as he says, the Freemasons of the Hebraic degree. So they made everyone else forget how. They changed the literature. And you know, what I just thought about, this is my opinion. This is why Noble Drew Ali said, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, if you want to change the people, you need to change literature. In other words, you need to correct it. Bring it back to its original pristine state. Because they changed it. Let me say it again. The epistle to the Hebrews is as I shall prove. And we're going to hold them to that, right? We're going to hold them to it. We're going to say, yes, you proved it, or no, you did not prove it. If you proved it, we will give you full faith and credit, or at least I will. You make your own decision. The composition of some royal archmason. So Hebrews was written by a royal archmason, veiling the mysteries of the Masonic craft. So in the letter to the Hebrews, the Masonic craft, nature, natural law, listen y'all, plus the 30 extra degrees that we learned about that are not a part of the original Masonry, the original father, there are 3 degrees, the moon, the sun, and the star. The other 30 degrees, the Catholics made up to force the worship and veneration of the Virgin Mary. See, we need to put 2 and 2 together. We need to integrate and correlate the information from different books, from different fields of study, everything else. Are y'all with me? Veiling the mysteries of the Masonic craft under a sort of language whose sense and purpose. So the language in the book of Hebrews is hiding something. Veiling the mysteries of the Masonic craft. He just told you that it is an encoded message. The epistle, the letter to the Hebrews, is an encoded message. Veiling the mysteries of the Masonic craft under a sort of language whose sense and purpose has escaped. Whose sense and purpose, that means if you don't know how to interpret the metaphors, the words, for example, connotative versus denotative meanings, concrete and abstract words and their relationships, or expressions and their relationships, y'all see? If you don't, like I said, if you don't know the symbology, if you don't know these things, and if you don't know the purpose, then that means you will never, ever, ever, ever be able to break the code that the epistle to the Hebrews is written in. Okay, that's what he means. Under a sort of language whose sense and purpose has escaped. Or no, actually it didn't escape. It was taken away. It was hidden. So now it's occult, which simply means hidden. In other words, if you're not in that inner house and somebody's telling you what the symbols mean, right? What the concrete and abstract relationships are, everything I just talked about. If you don't have someone instructing you orally or giving you the books, you'll never know. So no, it didn't escape. It was removed intentionally on purpose with malice, as we discussed in our last class. This last class before this one in Virgo. With malice, the intent to deceive. Do y'all see this? Everyone sees it? The intent to deceive. Let's continue. And been intended to escape the penetration. The penetration what? Escape the mind. Escape the awareness of all but the Freemasons of the Hebraic degree. So what does this tell you? Okay, they set it up so that it would be forgotten or unknown. And they did that through deceit. And y'all know how they roll, right? You know how they roll. Violence, terrorism, rewriting books, what do you call it? Iconography, changing the images. We all know how they roll, right? Persecution, taking legal action against people, using the banks and all of that, the financial system to destroy you, okay? Homosexuality, perversion, all of these things. Actually, everything that you see in North America that people think is normal and that you are free, when actually you are enslaved. You are enslaved. In scripture, they would say you are enslaved to your fleshly desires. Many of y'all are at the level of animals. In the way you behave. And actually it's shocking. You know, I've been out of North America since 2004 or 5, I don't remember. And when I see what's happening there, like on YouTube, it's just so shocking. When I was there, people, you couldn't imagine women behaving and even talking the way they talk, right? It's just, but y'all know who's responsible for that. Who's in control of the media? Who's in control of the images and the music that you hear? Who controls that? Who gives them the platform in terms of the legislation so that they can do that? See, it's very clear who's destroying you. It's very clear who your enemy is. But you can't see it. Why? Because you're operating at the level of an animal. Now let's keep it going. So what is this telling us? This information was hidden and reserved for only for Freemasons who achieved the degree of Hebrew. The other Freemasons would not know. It was kept from them. The masses of the people would not know. Now, why would they do that? Why would they hide this even from other Freemasons? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they want to get to know those Freemasons. Are they the kind of person who's ruthless? A wolf? Right? Are you a wolf or a sheep? Are you a principled man or are you unprincipled? See, if you're principled, if you're a principled man, you're not going to make it into the Hebrews. No. If you're ruthless, you'll get into the Hebrew degree. They're not going to let anyone in who's principled. Why? Because it would destroy their global power structure. Because they will tell And see, once the truth gets out, y'all think about it. What does the hybrid have that maintains its power structure? The only thing they have right now is religion. That's all they have. They're a minority. What if the whole world wakes up? What if they all knew astrotheology and that this whole historical Jesus and Christianity is a fraud? And their pastors, reverends and rabbis, imams, generals, captains, they all been lying to them. What do you think the people are going to do? And you have women who, rather than paying their light bill or gas bill, will give their last little bit of fiat to the church because they love Jesus. And they believe that Jesus will pay it forward. While the reverend's sitting up there driving a Bugatti or a Benz or a Rolls Royce. Y'all heard? And she's struggling. And he's okay with taking her pennies. And she got babies. And he's telling her she's doing right. And he knows he's lying and deceiving her. What do you think the masses of the people will do when they finally wake up? Well, they're going to do what? They're going to want justice. Right? All the pain they feel, they're going to want to comfort themselves. Right? And these people will not see another day of life. So that's why they don't let just anybody in to this knowledge. Only the unprincipled, only the ruthless who do anything for $1. I'm talking about fiat or a peso. Y'all hear me? These are the people who get into the higher levels of Freemasonry, the worst kind of people. All right? People who enjoy watching other people suffer. People who feel like they're better than you because they read a book and you don't have that book. They know more than you, so they feel so very simple. Well, let me not say simple-minded people, but very just terrible people. People who don't have a conscience, ruthless. Anyway, let's keep it going. But I want to make that clear, have that clear in your mind. This information, astrotheology, the knowledge of nature, astrology, the cosmos and natural phenomena, remixed into religious doctrine in the Old and the New Testament, is reserved for Freemasons of the Hebraic degree. Now remember, what does Hebrew mean? In religion, you'll hear the Hebrew Israelites say Hebrew means those who crossed over the river. It's a people, right? A group of people. You'll hear others say it's those who crossed over. It's an action. And then, of course, like I said, my opinion, it's those who crossed over from thought and then were made manifest from the soil. So from thought, from the intangible, the function of the mind, being made manifest or clothed in flesh, being made manifest from the soil. That's my opinion. Now let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. To whom it is addressed. So these are those of the Hebrew degree. These ruthless, unprincipled, no good bastards. To whom it is addressed. And will therefore supply the text of this and the whole course of lectures I have proposed to deliver, in which I shall, with quote unquote, confirmation strong as proof of holy writ. Now, I'm not going to go into anything specific, but these, y'all, and this is not that, but I'm showing y'all what a holy writ looks like. These are the holy writs. This is a divine and national movement. These are the holy writs. Y'all see those icons at the top? The Moorish flag. Y'all see the Great Pyramid, Continental flag. These are the holy writs. All right? These are our holy writs. But not holy as in religion. Holy as in bright, shining, glorified, glory, brilliant. Okay? Brilliant. All right? That light is shining so bright that you can see everything. There are no shadows. You can see everything. You heard me? You can see who you are and you can see who they are. You can see the law and you can enforce it. Right? You can enforce it. You can make it. Well, the three powers of government. That's what I'm talking about. Executive, legislative, and judicial. You can see that it's ours. The reserved rights of the people, the supremacy clause of the Constitution, supreme law of the land, right? And our treaty of peace and friendship 1836 between the Moroccan Empire and the United States for North America, the foreign United States in relationship to the Moors. All right, y'all? But anyway, let's get back to the book. And that's strong proof. That is strong proof. So you take back our culture that has been hidden from you. Our culture is science, which would include astrology and natural phenomena. Take that back, right? He's already admitted that they've hidden it from you. Take it back and save yourself by writing these holy writs and terminating rescission of signature or living within a contract through reserving your rights, etc., etc., etc. Okay, y'all? So let's keep it moving. Expose to the whole world the pretended secret of Freemasonry. So the author's saying he's going to expose it. Well, he's already exposed it. We're already 239 pages into this book. He's already exposed it. Right? It's the on the one hand, it's astrology remixed into a system of gods, devils, and demons, ceremonies and rituals, religion. Jeremiah 8 verse 8 also told you that. But then on the other hand, it's what? It's natural phenomena, also remixed into gods, devils, and demons. And sold and packaged in the three great religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. A trinity. All right? A three. Y'all see? Everything happening in threes. But he's going to give us more. All right? And discover to Masons themselves, that means Masons who don't know, They don't know nothing about this. Maybe they had an opportunity to learn, but they didn't learn. Maybe they're lazy, didn't care, too busy. Whatever. And those who are in the lower parts, the lower degrees, they never learn. Okay, so he said, I'm gonna teach you Masons. That's a heck of a thing, right? That's like me going to the LA Lakers, and I'm gonna say, I'm gonna teach y'all how to play basketball. You see what I mean? All right, and exposed to the whole world the pretended secret of Freemasonry, and discover to Masons themselves that whereby when they shall come to read, quote, they shall understand my knowledge of the mystery of their craft. So what is he saying? Well, I'm gonna tell y'all. The author had achieved the highest levels of Freemasonry, and he had access to all of the books, even documents that only, I think he said 2 or 3 people, only 3 other people in the world had on the topic. But anyway, his conscience got the better of him, and he decided to tell the truth to the world, and he started giving these lectures. That's how he knows. That's how he knows. So he was a teacher who was teaching the teacher. He was the teacher who taught the teachers. The words of the text are dreadful and terribly frightful, and read as they may be, and as I have heard them in a cracked bell speculacro tone of voice, their terror doeth unnerve the faculty of reason in man. And many a good and innocent mind, throwing the reins up upon the neck of imagination, have been borne away into reckless despair or incurable insanity. In other words, when you read the book of, or the letter to the Hebrews, it's scary if you don't know that it is an encoded message. If you read that as though it's history and religion, it's scary. And according to the author, it drove a lot of people crazy. Why? Because a lot of people have committed quote-unquote sins in their religion, and they're afraid of what's going to happen to them in the afterlife or in this life. They're thinking God is going to punish them. I know a person who was a friend of mine when I was in my early 20s. This happened to him. He became schizophrenic at about 23 years old or so. Very early onset for schizophrenia, 23. So in medicine, they'll say, oh, well, you probably had a genetic propensity to develop it, but you can get triggered by something. Well, maybe that's true. If it is true, he got triggered by it when he was only 23 years old, when he was at the headquarters. So who knows what happened to that brother? He was at the headquarters as a volunteer at Bethel and lost his mind and never recovered since the last time I talked to him, which was maybe 10 years ago. Never recovered. Lost his mind. But a lot of people, y'all know, I've read articles on the internet. I used to be JW, that's what they call it now. They have a greater incident of being admitted into mental health hospitals, I think that's what the article said, than all the other religions, or something like that. Y'all just check, Google search mental health and, hold on. Google search mental health and Jehovah's Witnesses, or mental health hospital, insane asylum, something like that, and Jehovah's Witnesses. Google search that, and you'll see. All right, you'll see. I think it's a good example. All right. Now, let's continue. We're on page 239. Our madhouses are filled with miserable wretches. With miserable wretches. Who is that? Who is the author who wrote that book, The Wretched of the Earth? But many of our people, unfortunately, are wretched, y'all. Many of our people are wretched, really, really wretched, raunchy and wretched. I'm just telling you the truth. If you're offended, you're probably in that culture, in that lifestyle. That's why you're offended. And you cannot see it. All right, let's continue. That's why I like this author. He makes me laugh. He really makes me laugh. All right. So our madhouses, our mental health hospitals are filled with miserable wretches who applying this text to themselves. Okay? They think this letter is to them. According to the author, it ain't got nothing to do with you. Okay? Applying this text to themselves, have imagined that they have committed the unpardonable, the unforgivable sin against the Holy Ghost. And that's what they would get you with in Jehovah's Witnesses. Oh, you sinned against the Holy Spirit. Or they would say something, it's actually indirectly, but they would plant the thought in your mind. Right? You may have sinned against the Holy Spirit, and there's no forgiveness. So they tell you that, and then they tell you, but that's between you and Jehovah. Do you know what that would do to you mentally? Right now, in addition to you think you done sinned, maybe their focus, all religions, they're obsessed with sex, right? You committed adultery, you committed fornication, you smoked weed, you smoked cigarettes, right? Whatever the doctrine is. Usually it's some sex, some adultery or fornication, right? While they themselves are molesting children, it came out. Or hiding, covering up that others, ministerial servants and elders, people who are in positions of authority, have been molesting children and raping people. And they're covering that up. Did y'all hear about that case in in Australia? Anyway, all over the world, this has been going on and of course, they're going to deny it. They're going to say it's the devil trying to turn people away from Jehovah. But if you learn that there is no devil, then you see what they're saying is a lie. Start there. Is there a devil? If you happen to be a Jehovah's Witness, a JW, start there. Research whether or not there's a devil. If there's no devil, then they lied. That means that it's not the devil who's trying to turn you and other people away from the truth. That's what they used to call it. From the truth. And now I hear, the last couple of years, I've been hearing Hebrew Israelites say they've been in the truth. Well, guess what, y'all? The Jehovah's Witnesses have been saying they have the truth, or when you meet someone in the greeting, they'd ask a question, oh, how long have you been in the truth? So now you have the Hebrew Israelites talking about, I've been in the truth for so many years. And then they have the nerve to turn around and tell you that they're not a religion. And the Jehovah's Witnesses are run. The founder was a Freemason and a Knights Templar. And according to Jordan Maxwell, they get their doctrine. What was the name? They get the doctrine. It comes from an intelligence agency of Britain. I don't remember. Next time I hear it, y'all, I'm going to write it down and share it with y'all. That's where they get their doctrine. So what did they do? So these governments, you think Secret Treaty of Verona. These governments come up with these religious doctrines and fund them through secret societies, et cetera, fund them, staff them, and start pushing their doctrine. Door to door, TV ministry. What's the purpose of it? The purpose of it is to what? Well, first of all, what Hermetic law? What Hermetic law is involved? The Hermetic law of mental gender. Right? They want to get you to first to hear and see their narrative, their doctrine. Then they want to get you to read the literature. They want you ultimately to do what? They want ultimately to get you to transport yourself through the phenomena is called narrative transportation, to get you to activate your imagination and start seeing images, hearing the sounds, smelling the environment, tasting the food. They want to transport you into the story. What does that mean? Or how do we see it? Here's an example of it. You go to the movies, or you go to the cinema, you watch the movie. And you're into the movie, you forget all about your life. You even forget that you're in the cinema. You're totally into the movie. That's what they want. Because you will eventually, after you are exposed to that enough, you will eventually believe it. In other words, it's hypnosis, right? It's subtle. It's hypnosis. You will eventually believe it, and then you will begin to live your life by it. And so what is it that they're pushing? End time prophecy. That's what they're pushing. End time prophecy. Apocalypse. So now they got you. They propaganda. Well, you allowed your mind to be propagandized. In fact, you did it to yourself. Right? You did it to yourself. You could have left. You could have done something else, but you made the decision to do all that you did. They just presented it to you, and so therefore it feels like everything that is happening is because of the decisions that you made. Well, guess what? It is. So now they have you in the frame of mind where the world is going to end, and they can run this whole game on you that they're running on you now. With the Middle East, with Israel, with Gog and Magog, with Russia, right? All of these battles, and everybody's wondering, oh, we're in the last days, right? We need to have a military. The military needs this. And y'all see the game, the hustle? See, if everybody is at peace, you don't need government. You don't need government. What do you need them for? If you have peace, if you don't need them, are you going to give them your fiat? Right? Are you going to do things that you ordinarily would not do, but you do it because you have to do? No. That's why these governments scare you to death, always going to war. And they're earning fiat from it, right? They make the fiat, and then they pass the fiat out amongst themselves. They create wars, they create social problems, what do you call it? But anyway, y'all see what I mean. They destroy economies and they build economies up. All of it is fake. At the top, they're all on the same team. Puppet masters. All right? All of them are on the same team at the top. Okay? So let's continue. All right, so we left off, these people are going crazy because they are afraid that they committed an unpardonable or unforgivable sin, and they're going to burn in hell, or they're going to die and not be resurrected, separated from their loved ones forever and ever and ever, or be tortured in excruciating pain forever and ever and ever. That drives some people crazy. All right? He continues, that they have, in the greatest sense, quote unquote, trodden under the foot the Son of God. They done stepped on the Son of God as if he's a worm. And done despite and done disrespect to the Spirit of grace. We already talked about that. A mere vicissitude in the state of their animal spirits. The subduing of the high fever. Hold on, y'all. The subduing of the high fever of, what is this? Is it fanaticism? Yes, fanaticism. When in their insane language, they were illuminated and had tasted of the heavenly gift, and were made partakers of the Holy Spirit, and had tasted the good word of God. It's so poetic, right? The speech is very poetic, very beautiful speech, right? And the powers of the world to come, that's Hebrews chapter 6, verse 5. Into the sober November, of that debility which necessarily follows a fever is evidence enough to them of their unpardonable gift. The wound is given that never can be healed, the sorrow conceived that never can be comforted. While villains of harder nerve, though not of stronger intellect. So while villains of harder nerve, but stupid, right? He says, though not of stronger intellect. They're no smarter than you, these villains. In their luck of being able to brave its terror for themselves by making sure of their own salvation, play the priest with it. Y'all got that? So you, unaware of what the real deal is about worshiping the stars, astrology, the whole 9 yards, natural phenomena being remixed into these religious beliefs, doctrines, rituals, and ceremony, you don't know nothing about that. But yet, let's say you slip up, you're unmarried, let's say, and you commit fornication. Now you're scared to death, okay? Scared to death you're going to burn in hell or not be resurrected. Scared to death. But yet the priest is 1,000,000 times more a sinner, more immoral than you. He's sleeping with boys, raping boys, right? Or raping women, covering up other priests, other elders, ministerial servants, other pastors, other imams, rapes, and pedophilia. He's covering it up or doing it himself, or doing it himself. He's 100 times worse than you. And he's not more intelligent than you. This is what the author is telling you. He's showing you the contrast between the average church, synagogue, mosque, temple member, and the priestcraft, the ecclesiastical class. All right? In their luck of being able to brave its terror for themselves by making sure of their own salvation. Play the priest with it in turn upon others and gratify the worst feelings of a malignant heart by applying it in imagination to any object of their religious aversion. So y'all being hustled. But let a man rise up in age, possessing learning enough to know the meaning of the text. And that's what I experienced. When I got into religion, I was very young. I think I was 16. I had no experience in life. But it made logical sense to me. And in that sense, it was good, because what I eventually realized when I saw the hustle was, wait a minute, they're presenting logic and idealism. And this logic and idealism of the New Testament doesn't work out in the real world. For example, it's like theoretical mathematics, theoretical physics. It's beautiful, beautiful equations, everything. Looks wonderful, right? It's like looking at a beautiful building, a beautiful painting. But when you try to use that theory to make something in the real life, in the real world, it breaks down. It don't work. It doesn't work. Okay? This is what the author is telling you. But let a man rise up in age. So you get experience in life. You become wise as you get older, right? Possessing learning. Let's say you go to university, you go to college, or you do, for example, like so many of our ancestors have done, and we used to do, we self-educate ourselves. I'm not talking about hood education, street education, or being educated by hip-hop lyrics or R&B lyrics, by the entertainment, and that is not that's not a proper education. Street logic, that's not what I'm talking about. Street wisdom, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what he's talking about. But you get a proper education. You study mathematics, study physics, study psychology, psychiatry, medicine, linguistics, engineering, architecture. That's a proper education. Law. Okay? A proper education, not street logic. Trying to understand the meaning of hip-hop music. That's not what it's talking about. That will lead you to misery, trust me. But this is what our people do. Or you get educated. You got an education from watching TV, sitcoms. Educated from going to the cinema, watching Captain America, or the Avengers, or whatever, Avatar, whatever the movies are. That's the kind of education you have. You're in a bad place if that's what you have, and But I'm not saying that to make fun of you. I'm saying that hopefully to inspire you to get a proper education, which is what I'm giving you now. All right? This is a proper education I'm giving you now. He continues. So possessing learning, possessing a proper education enough to know the meaning of the text. Well, wait a minute. You need to know philology, right? You need to know linguistics, especially the difference between denotative and connotative words, linguistics, right? You need to know that. You need to know about history. You need to know about mythology. You need to know about astrology. This is what the author is telling you. Once you know these things, he continues, and with that learning, with that knowledge of astrology, right? Knowledge of natural phenomena, knowledge of nature, knowledge of history, secular and mythology. Where was I? Oh, and then linguistics. So that would have to do with words, how words are constructed, base words, right? Root words, all of that, grammar rules, connotative linguistics, denotative linguistics. Once you know all of that, he continues, generosity enough to communicate his knowledge, you're willing to share it, and thus to break the spell of the priestcraft. He just told you everything you need to know in order to break the spell of the priestcraft. Well, what is the spell of the priestcraft? I believe it's Mark chapter 4, where JC says his apostles asked him, why do you always speak to the people in parables? And JC says, because they have eyes to see. Well, I'm going to uncouple their eyes from their mind. Although having eyes to see, they never perceive. See, eyes are just sensory apparatus. They're just organs to see with. But it's the mind where you experience vision. And the mind is not inside the brain. It is in consciousness that you experience vision. All right? Let me repeat that. It is in consciousness, which exists outside of the body. All right? It's non-local. It's everywhere but nowhere at the same time. Y'all heard? The eyes are just an organ. The brain processes it. Yeah, your visual center processes it. But it's the mind that experiences vision. Huh? Remember the first Hermetic law, all is mind. The universe exists in the mind of the all. And then JC went on to say, although having ears to hear, they will never understand. Well, it's the same concept that we just talked about with vision for the ears. So JC uncoupled your ears from your mind. So the author is telling you that it is through a proper education that you can break the spell of the priestcraft. Look at this page. Look at the page. What do you see? A bunch of letters, right? A bunch of dots. A bunch of what we call commas and periods, right? Spaces. Some letters are next to each other. Others have a space between them. Letters are put together to form certain sounds. So this is what you're looking at right now, these are spells, y'all. Spells. See, spells are not negative. Spells are not negative, but a spell is negative when it is meant to deceive you. For example, the God's spell is meant to deceive you. It's malicious. All right? The God's spell is malicious. That truck came by here and the exhaust, I'm sorry, y'all, irritating my throat. So it is meant to deceive you. It is malicious. But it is through the knowledge of linguistics, how words are formed, right? Putting letters together in a specific sequence to form a word, and they have a meaning, the original meaning or the mother meaning, the denotative meaning, and then any deviation from that in terms of the spelling and the meaning, the definition of the word. All right? Change the definition, connotative linguistics. But they will hide that from you and use the word evolve. The word evolved into this. No, words don't evolve. Words change. People change them for specific reasons, which we call social engineering. Usually they're political or financial, all involving what? Concentrating power or exercising power, domination over someone else. Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. Have everyone in subjection. This is the commission that the hybrid, the Neanderthal, the troglodyte, all right, the Han Uman / the human was given to do to the autochthonous, Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, Moors, autochthonous Moors. All right, so philology, linguistics, and history. Three things. And with those three things, if you are willing to educate yourself or be educated, you can break this spell on your own. And what I'm giving you is everything you need to break that God spell, to break that spell that the dark priesthood, the brothers of Saturnalia, has put on you, that the historical Jesus, that Christianity has put on you. All right? So anyway, let's continue. And thus to break the spell of priestcraft, to restore distracted minds to the health of reason, to destroy minds that are totally disconnected from nature, minds that are uncoupled from their eyes and ears, to restore you to good health of reason, to soften stony hearts into the flesh, it says here, of human gentleness and love. Okay, so when you see human, you should think Han Uman and correct that to just man. All right? Man includes man with the womb. So man has a womb and some men don't have a womb, okay? The priests are all on the shiver and the shake for the safety of their craft. Yeah, because see, when this information gets out, they're out of a job, and people are going to want to put them to sleep forever for what they've done to them. That's called divine justice, natural law. They're going to want to take these priests out of their misery, right? They're going to be miserable and scared. The money's dried up. So they're going to want to take them out of that misery, put them to sleep, exterminate them. They are ready to set all bedlam loose, to tear him to pieces. Their patients are taught to look on him as their enemy. Imagination invests him with the character of an emissary of Satan. So, the author is saying because he's telling, or he's told and telling the truth about Christianity, Judaism, and astrotheology, they branded him as a worshiper of the devil, and they want him dead. And they don't want the masses to even say hello to him, let alone go to the rotunda on Blackfriars Road and listen to the Reverend Robert Taylor speak. See, they're trying to not only protect their craft, protect their industry, I'm talking about the priest, they're not only trying to protect their craft of Christianity, from which they extract money through deceit and deception, but they're also trying to keep living. Because once the people, if the people ever did find out how they have hustled them, they will exterminate them. So for them, this is life and death, y'all. Life and death. So let's continue. So they look at the author, as he says, as their enemy. Imagination vests him with the character of an emissary of Satan, right? Chaplain of the devil. What does he call it? That's where he gets the name the devil's pulpit. All right. So now let's continue. The ambassador of hell, the devil's chaplain. The very walls, the mere brick and mortar of the building within which the voice of reason is to be heard, get a bad name, and the evangelical idiots, that's the masses of the people, that would block up the streets to get a glimpse of a rational man in the Silver Street Chapel, dared not, for their salvation, trust themselves within the doors of the rotunda. Okay, so this Silver Street Chapel, that's where his enemies, or those who consider him an enemy, that's where they're giving their Sunday school. That's where they're having church. All right? That's where they're having church. And they're crazy about, like, for example, when the Pope comes, you see masses of people, right, coming to see the Pope. This is what he's saying. And priests of all denominations in this metropolis, in this city, have the modesty to warn and dehort and admonish their couched hearers not for any consideration whatever, for no reason at all. You better not go to the rotunda. He is a devil. Okay, he worships the devil. And I'm just trying to save your soul so you can go to heaven and you won't burn in hell, or you won't burn or you won't die forever. You'll die the second death. You know, all of that garbage. I'm just trying to help you so that you don't commit an unforgivable sin. All right? And admonish their couched hearers, that's y'all, the church member, the camp member, the temple mosque member, the synagogue member. Admonish or advise their couch hearers not for any reason whatever to trust themselves to enter that horrible rotunda. Y'all know one of the most toxic scriptures in the whole Bible, if not the most toxic scripture, is that verse that says, do not rely upon your own understanding. Do not rely upon your own understanding. Wait a minute. I'm supposed to rely on your understanding? No. Don't rely on my understanding. Rely on God's understanding. Rely on the Bible, God's word. Okay. So I'm supposed to interpret God's word on my own? No. No. We have a doctrine, and the doctrine is the most important thing. Every member has to stick to the doctrine. So wait a minute. You just told me You just told me in what you just said that I'm supposed to rely on you and not my own mind. Y'all see what the critical thinking process does for you? See, it shows their hypocrisy. Do not lean upon your own understanding. This is what they tell you. Every church has their own doctrine. And if you don't follow their doctrine, what do? They disfellowship you, they excommunicate you, they kick you out, they ostracize you, they tell people don't talk to you. But if you ask them, am I supposed to make my own decisions? Am I supposed to think for myself? They'll say yes. So wait a minute. So I'm supposed to come to my own understanding of these Bible verses? No. You need to follow ours. Well, wait a minute. That means I'm not using my own mind. I'm not making my own decisions. You just told me I'm supposed to make my own decisions. Now you're telling me I'm not. Y'all see the hustle of the game? Do not rely on your own understanding. No, let me correct that. Rely on your own understanding. Use critical thinking. Use your faculty of critical thinking. Use your faculty of analytical thinking before you believe something, before you accept something. Okay? Write a list of questions and then go out and get the answers to every one of those questions. All right? Once you can answer those, hold on, y'all, here comes another truck. And then once you, hold on. These are, what kind of truck was that? I'm at a university. This is a small, it looks like a small university. I think this is the Royal College of Arts or something like that. I'm in Cambodia. Something like the Royal College of Arts. I should have looked at the name. And I'm right across from a parking lot, and this is a little area for a little cafe. So a lot of trucks, looks like landscaping type of trucks and, you know, things like that keep running by. Diesel trucks is what I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Where was I, y'all? Here's my point. Get those questions answered. And then based upon the evidence and the facts, make your own decision as to what is true and not true. Okay? It's better to know. Don't believe. Make sure you know. Okay? If you don't know or you don't have enough information to know, you can make an assumption. Or I'm going to make a decision based off of these three assumptions. Assumption 1, assumption 2, assumption 3. I remember when I was doing my MBA, that was a very important part of writing up a case, right? You'd have to come up with logical, practical assumptions in order for you to work that case out, okay? You needed to have your assumptions right. Well, it's the same thing, y'all. Especially when we deal with this whole religious game, and it is a game, this whole religious hustle. If there's not enough evidence, you make sure that you identify something as an assumption. Okay? So now you're not believing it, you understand clearly it's just an assumption. Okay? There's no evidence for it. I'm just going to assume it. And now you rely upon your own understanding. You rely upon your own mind. The one thing that the Most High gave us, I'm speaking religious lingo, is what, y'all? The ability to think our own thoughts. But religion, that's a thing that you have complete and unchallengeable control over. The ability to think your own thoughts. So it must be the most important, the most powerful action or activity that you have. The ability to think your own thoughts. And that is absolutely true. Why? Because when you go into the workshop of your mind and you begin to, connotatively speaking, be God consciously, you go into your God role. You go into a meditative state. Your mind is relaxed, right? And then you begin to imagine what you want, okay? As though it's already there. You see it in your imagination. You don't have to see crystal clear pictures, no. Over time, as you practice, you may begin to see clear, crystal clear pictures. And then that will be the reality that gets created. That will become your reality in life. Y'all see that? This is the truth. I know from experience. I know from experience. But the church wants you to ignore that. They want you to replace that power or give them that power deceptively. All right? Of course you need to make your own decisions, think about it, do what you're going to do, but you need to accept our doctrine. Anyway, let's keep going. When you accept their doctrine, that means you are not using your own mind, right? Now, you may agree with their doctrine. That's something totally different. But for you to accept it and you don't know nothing about it, you haven't thought about it critically, well, now you are what the author calls a fool, an idiot, okay? So he continues. And priests of all denominations, I already read that. Okay, so let's continue. Quote, why? Who preaches there? Why don't you want me to go to the rotunda? Why are you telling me under no circumstances are you to go to the rotunda? Who preaches there? Why don't you want me to go? End quote. The devil's chaplain. If once you go and hear the Reverend Robert Taylor, the devil's chaplain, your soul is lost forever. See, right? You go to heaven or hell based upon following the doctrine of the church. If you go there, you're going to see that the doctrine of the church is all lies. And your foundation will crumble. And we're going to lose money in this deal. Right? We're going to lose money in the deal. If you walk out, we lost money. So we're going to keep you here. Don't go to that rotunda. That's the business side of it, okay, y'all? He is inspired by the devil. And like the Jehovah's Witnesses governing body says, and the Jehovah's Witness congregation people, they say that the courts brought these fraudulent cases, the victims brought these fraudulent cases because they are worshiping the devil. Y'all see it? They're inspired by the devil. They're trying to hurt Jehovah's organization. But they don't know that there is no devil. So if you study and you realize there's no devil, now what? Now that that argument is off the table, now what? Now you need to deal with reality. The reality is that they're guilty. And they did it because they wanted to do it. The devil wasn't involved. And if you keep learning, you'll learn that the devil is a lower self and the Christ is a higher self. So the devil is in you, depending on what decisions you make, how you behave, right, y'all? Anyway, let's continue. Witchcraft composes his discourses. A power of fascination rides upon his sentences. And hell itself lets down the sledgehammer of conviction upon his periods. Periods in sentences, right? Sentences are supposed to convey a complete thought. So you listen to this man, he's going to totally destroy our doctrine. And you're going to see that you, one, have nothing to be afraid of in terms of burning in hell. Two, you have nothing to look forward to in terms of going to heaven or living in paradise on earth forever. That's just made up. Right? Energy cannot be created or destroyed. That means consciousness. We are thought. We are consciousness. Made manifest from the land. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only transform. In other words, it changes form. So this is what happens when man expires. His consciousness changes form. Don't be scared. You're still here, just not in the flesh. And guess what? The book of the law says that we come back. But that's a whole other story. So what you scared of? All right, so you keep coming to this astrotheology course and you will see the truth. Not because I'm special, not because I have some connection with or relationship with some God. No, I'm sharing this book with you. Okay? And you're gonna learn if you keep coming. You will learn, you'll learn more and more and more. You'll put one and one together, you'll put two and two together, you'll put three and three together. And before you know it, if you keep coming to these classes, you're going to become a master. And you'll be able to read these texts on your own and understand them because you've already got the basic concepts or the foundation, the framework. You already got it there. So when you start reading, even if you have low or average reading comprehension level, once you have the foundations, the fundamentals, you'll be able to read these texts on your own. All right? Is it going to be easy? Maybe, maybe not. Are you going to have to look up a lot of words? Probably yes. I know I did. All right, y'all. So do y'all see the slander? Do y'all see the malice, the deceit, the deception of the priestcraft? These preachers and pastors, imams and rabbis? When in fact, they are the ones who are practicing witchcraft. All right? And worshiping the devil. All right, so let's continue. Your only safe policy is to keep away from the rotunda. So you don't die forever, so you don't burn in hell. If you go there, you'll become rational. If you go there, you will be freed from the God spell, right? Your mind and your eyes and ears will be recoupled. Then you can repent. Then you can be saved. right? Without doing that, what did JC said? Although having eyes to see, they cannot perceive. Although having ears to hear, they cannot hear. Then he tells you why, his purpose, so that they can never repent. Because if they repent, they can be saved. In other words, you will be totally under the God spell. You will always and forever in perpetuity be what? A debtor, a sinner, a debtor, in need of a savior, in need of a creditor. All right? And then you will always, always and forever be the living sacrifice of the straw. All caps John Doe, Mary Jane. The nom de guerre. Okay, y'all? So that's what your historical JC wants for you. Christianity is commerce. Okay? So let's keep it going. So if you want to get out of that dead state, that civilly dead state, that debtor state, you better break that God spell. All right? If you go there, you will become rational, and then they will lose your custom, they will lose your finance, your fiat forever. So when you go to the synagogue that they call a court, the de facto court, when you go to the synagogue and you see that being wearing a black robe in honor of their deity, the Black Prince, right? Zoroaster. And they expect for you to consent, knowingly or unknowingly, to being the living sacrifice, the Holocaust, for the nom de guerre, for the straw, so that they can make fiat off of you. And the terrible thing is that they already make the fiat. They don't need more fiat. They got a system of slavery, a system of bondage rather. Quote unquote, connotatively speaking, human trafficking. Which for the autochthonous Moors is what, y'all? What is the system for the autochthonous Moors? These are the curses, Deuteronomy 28, 15 through 68, the punishments that are listed therein, and that specifically mention that the oppressor will use public policy. The big one in North America, let's say the big one in the West is what? Children and Family Services. Public policy. The black codes, right? Jim Crow. Affirmative action. Use all of that against you. They will use public policy and their judicial system to harass and destroy the Moors. Right there in the book of the law. Right there in Deuteronomy 28. All right, underneath the English in the Ibaryath, in the ancient Ibaryath. You see it plain as day. This is what the author was talking about. He says, but let a man rise up in age, let a man become wise, possessing learning enough to know the meaning of the text. Well, if you know the ancient Ibaryath, you can know the meaning of the text. Then you can break that God spell. Then you can get what? In your proper status. Your nationality, nationalize. Learn how to write. Learn how to prepare these holy writs. Right? Learn how to free yourself. Learn how to be yourself. Anyway, let's continue. Only put forth your hand and pluck and eat of the apples of paradise, and the devil a tooth will have you left for any more of the crabs of the wilderness. So in other words, if you taste the sweet fruit of this education, you'll never want to go back into the religious belief system, and I know that from my own experience. As for instance, see the way that we have in the passage I have read to you, a merciless, horrible bit of business as it is. But, okay, so here are some analytical questions about the epistle, the letter to the Hebrews. Who wrote the epistle to the Hebrews? Who said it? Who did it? When? Where? How? So y'all see those six, I call them the six magic questions. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Whom does it concern? Whom does the letter to the epistles concern? Well, let me give you a hint. It ain't got nothing to do with you. To whom was the letter to the epistles addressed? What does it mean? And what business is it of ours? Why should we care about this letter to the Hebrews, this epistle to the Hebrews? These are critical thinking questions, okay? These are questions which every sensible man, these are critical thinking questions which every sensible man would ask on any other subject in which he was or might suppose himself to be interested. Absolutely. Someone asks you to join a club, well, you're going to ask these questions, right? Someone asks you to join something else or to do, you're going to ask critical thinking questions, right? Unless you're intellectually lazy. And that's not a put down. That means you've just been conditioned and you've made decisions that resulted in your present state of mind that you are intellectually lazy, which is most people. What was the saying? That thinking is the most difficult thing to do, and most people are not willing to do it. They just want you to tell them, right? They want you to tell them, to entertain them. Show them pictures. Tell them what the book says. Or do even better than that. Tell them what an article that's giving commentary on the document or book says. These are the questions which every sensible man would ask on any other subject in which he was or might suppose himself to be interested in, and without the most perfect and satisfactory solution of which a rational man would no more suffer himself to be frightened. In other words, you're scared to death, y'all Christians, Hebrew Israelites, Jews are scared to death from what you learn about the beliefs and the doctrines of your church, synagogue, or temple, or mosque. Got you scared to death. But you have not asked critical thinking questions. This is what the author is telling you, right? And nobody in their right mind, if it was dealing with another topic other than religion, nobody in their right mind would not ask these questions. And they definitely wouldn't be scared if they didn't have the answer to these questions. Not a sensible man, not a logical man, right? No, if it's any other topic, you would not be scared. But here you are scared to death about religion, and you have not asked these questions. So the question is why? Why are you rational and sensible on another topic and a complete idiot, a coward, and a fool when it comes to religion? This is the author's point. He wants you to look at the contrast. All right? So a rational man would no more suffer himself to be frightened, to suffer. A rational man would not be scared at the big words of it, right? All these doctrines and beliefs, it wouldn't scare you. It wouldn't mean nothing to you if it was another topic. Why? There's no evidence, there's no facts. You haven't accepted it. Okay, you've thought about it and you haven't accepted it. Okay? Then a sensible cock sparrow, that's a bird, would at the clapper in a cherry tree. Okay? So y'all get the analogy? So that bird is not going to be afraid of a clapper in a cherry tree. To be sure, Jack Straw looks devilish, savage, and when the Holy Ghost blows his clapper round a little faster than usual, it makes a great noise. But let us venture once to perch on him, and we shall sing, cherry ripe, cherry pie, sing, 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 ripe, ripe, ripe. And when the cherries are ripe, it is not the parson's clapper, nor his devil either, that shall hinder the clever birds from helping themselves to them. All right? So the bird ain't scared. Quote unquote. Thus then, to all his much ado about, quote unquote, dying without mercy. See, that's what scares y'all. Dying without mercy. Dying in sin. And the what? Sorer punishment, quote unquote. Sorer punishment. Expressions meant to terrorize you, to make you afraid. Okay? And sorer punishment still than dying without mercy. This trampling under the foot of the S-O-N Son of God. This, quote unquote, sanctified, bloody covenant. This, quote unquote, unholy, spiteful spirit of grace. This, quote unquote, vengeance and judgment, and quote unquote, frightful falling into the hands of the living God. Reason answers at once, quote unquote, shall I be frightened when a madman stares? But we may find, perhaps, that there is a method in this madness. In other words, this madness, there's a purpose for it. But if there be a method in the madness or a purpose for the madness, method is a thing of which reason and reason only can judge. In other words, you need to use your intellectual, your let me rephrase that. You need to use your critical and analytical faculties of the mind in order to see the method in the madness or the purpose of this fear campaign. Okay, y'all? And they who were conscious that they put forth would bear the scrutiny and truination of reason, would never be afraid of looking at both scales. In other words, you're not afraid to look at the evidence and facts for and the evidence and facts against. The belief systems, these expressions that are meant, and also these expressions that are meant to scare you to death, scare you into submission, nor shrink from the calm and indifferent comparison. In other words, objective analysis, right, of these beliefs and doctrines, of what may be urged on both sides, which it was never anything else but madness or villainy that was afraid of. Okay, y'all? So you should be comfortable. You should be comfortable analyzing this topic. Right? You should be comfortable analyzing it. The evidence and the facts. What's wrong with that? How is God going to punish you for using the very mind he gave you? How does that make you of the devil? First then, who was the author or writer of this epistle to the Hebrews, as it is called? That's a reasonable question, right? If there's no author, let me show y'all something. Let me find a writ where, I hope I can find one, where they, I might have to go after this, y'all. They're playing music. I don't want them to remove the video. Can y'all put a 1 in the comment section if y'all can hear that music in the background? If the universal message, hold on. Universal message writes, great topic, brother. Thank you very much. Islam Shalawama to you. So Islam Shalawama, Islam is an affirmation that I'm acknowledging that you are also I self-law and master. All right? So I am acknowledging your quote unquote, let me say this, your brilliance. Let me put it that way. Your brilliance, because that's concrete. All right? And of course, Shalawama has many meanings, the essence of which is peace. And the return of all debts that are unpaid and due you. Did y'all know that? The return of your birthright and peace within yourself, within your household, your kinfolk, your community, and with other nations. So I have a book, the Dr. Yasapa, what is my, I have a the Dr. Yasapa Ancient Ibaryath, Aramaic, and English Lexicon. It's a little small book, but it has all of the ancient Ibaryath root words and the Aramaic root words, okay, and their meanings. Roots. It's not a lexicon of every word in the Hebrew Bible or in the Old Testament. It is not that. It is a lexicon of all of the roots. And the roots are the bricks, for example, that a building is made from. So the words will all reduce down to roots, okay? Some people call them radicals, all right? So that's what Shalawama means. So let's see if I can show you this. Now, remember, this is an unsigned letter. So let me show y'all when the de facto court or when a corporation sends you an unsigned letter, there's no natural person. Let me show y'all what the practical application of this. Hopefully I can find one right away. Okay. So this is I got these writs, all my civic stuff, y'all, that I'm using. It's not mine. Let me clarify that. This comes from Consul General Lamont Maurice L. On enforcetheconstitution.org. So I just downloaded this stuff, but I get all my civics. When I say all my civic stuff, I mean civic stuff that I'm using. This is not my work. So no one think I'm trying to take credit for somebody else's work. All right, so here, this is an affidavit of fact, memorandum of trust, international document, consular jurisdiction and venue. So I'm looking for the, hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. This case has to do with a mortgage. I think this is a mortgage. Hold on. Yeah, a mortgage. Hold on. This involves Fidelity National Title Insurance Company. All right. So let me show y'all. So you can download this on enforcetheconstitution.org. Can y'all see it? Hey. All right, how about like that? All right. So here we go. Let's take a look at this now. Yeah, this involves a mortgage. All right. So here is Exhibit B from United Wholesale Mortgage, UWM. It was mailed out on June 17th, 2021. All right. This is a delinquent notice sent to the nom de guerre or straw Elzira M. Wilborn. All right. Now, y'all take a look here. It says, sincerely, Loan Servicing Department, 198. Look at that. Now, this is correspondence sent through the mail. Look at the arrow. Read the text. What does that say, y'all? Can y'all see that? Do y'all notice that there's no natural person? Read the text in handwriting. Read the handwriting. This is an unsigned letter, just like the epistle to the Hebrews. Okay? Evidence of there being no identifiable signature, no natural person. No natural person, no person natural in full life. Evidence of there being no identifiable sender or signature which constitutes fraud. See, constitutes fraud. This is a holy writ. This is a holy writ. And there's nobody taking up liability for it. But in the letter to the epistles, the epistle to the Hebrews, guess what? It's also an unsigned letter. They admit it's a letter. It's an epistle to the Hebrews. It's unsigned. Evidence of no natural person. Why wouldn't someone sign it? Right? Why wouldn't they? In other words, they don't want the liability for it, right? They don't want the liability for it. Huh? I don't know where it's at. Yeah, evidence of there being no identifiable sender or a signature which constitutes fraud. Let me see. How's that? Hope everybody can see that. But y'all can download that and read it at enforcetheconstitution.org. So that's the first big problem. The letter to the Hebrews has no identifiable natural person. So it's also fraudulent. Right? Unless you what? You want to give it full faith and credit and say, oh, I believe. There's nobody swearing or affirming, certifying that it's the truth. Right? No. 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 Not at all. But these holy writs, we affirm. Right? Well, I think everybody's familiar with that. So, for example, this holy writ has an affidavit. Y'all see that? All of them do. All the holy writs do. There's an identifiable, natural, in full life, civilly alive person, a man, or womb man. The certifying to the truthfulness. Okay, so here's the affidavit. This is a writ, hold on. Affidavit of fact, adverse claim of title and reversion of ancestral estate, international document. So y'all go ahead, there you are. All of this you can get on enforcetheconstitution.org. All right, enforcetheconstitution.org, and then you study them. So page 6 of 6. There's the sixes again. There's the sixes again. All right, affidavit. I declare and affirm by virtue of divine law. Divine law, the Hermetic laws, and then, of course, all of the lesser laws, right? Natural laws. Under the Zodiac Constitution. Okay, that's what C.M. Bay provided for us. And in the Zodiac Constitution, you will see that what's included in that, in the Zodiac Constitution, that all Moors must honor. The Zodiac Constitution, the Clock of Destiny, volumes 1 and 2, and the Clock of Destiny, Moorish American Nationality Identification Card, our nationality card. Okay? And upon the Constitution for the United States of North America, 1791. And in honor of my foremothers and forefathers. That's Exodus chapter 20, verse 12 of the Ten Commandments, that you'll call it in religion. That the above affidavit of dispute is true and correct to the best of my knowledge and honorable intent, executed this day, and it gives the day, the year, and then it has the autograph, the signature, the autograph of the living in full life, civilly alive, natural man or woman. Y'all see it? This is a holy writ. A brilliant, bright, and shining holy writ. And there's someone there to take liability for it. Someone there who's responsible. But the epistle, the letter to the Hebrews, which is a letter, has no identifiable natural man or woman. Nobody in full life. To declare and affirm that it is true and correct, that it is truth. No, that's left up to you and your imagination, right? This is the narrative transportation phenomenon. Okay, this is the malice, intent to deceive. All right, because a holy writ, and this letter to the Hebrews is supposed to be holy. All right, it's supposed to be holy. It's supposed to be bright, where you can see everything. If you can see everything, you should be able to see the person who put this together, who this author tells us was a what? A Royal Ark Mason. And they hid that from you. So that's deceit. So it makes it fraud. It makes it fraud. But anyway, let's continue. Where am I? Okay, still on page 240, 2 plus 4 is 6. There we are at 6 again. 240, 2 plus 4 plus 0 is 6. First, then, Who was the author or writer of this epistle, of this letter to the Hebrews, as it is called? Well, there's no identifiable natural man or woman. There's nobody in full life. In the Greek manuscripts and in all authentic translations from the Greek, it is perfectly anonymous. Y'all remember that letter from that corporation, right? It's fraud. It's fraud. I just want to show it again. All right, so let's go back to Exhibit B1. Evidence of there being no identifiable sender or signature which constitutes fraud. Now, what's the context of this, y'all? What is the context? Let's do like that. What kind of affidavit of fact is this? Okay, affidavit of fact, memorandum of trust, international document. This is related to what, y'all? The affidavit of fact, adverse claim of title and reversion of ancestral estate. In other words, this person was robbed. This man was robbed of his ancestral estate, and now he's getting it back. And he's showing the fraud, the mechanism on how they robbed him. Right? And then they sent, that's the corporation, they sent him an unsigned letter. Okay? And Christianity is feudalism. And it is a mechanism to rob us of our birthright. Right? And here you see another unsigned letter. All right? You see it? And, well, I'm not going to get into the Catholic Church and the Sister Trust and all of this stuff. But that's also applicable here. All right? So let's continue. It is called only, then it gives the Greek sentence. It is called only the epistle to the Hebrews. It shows it written in Greek. It is not known by whom it was written, nor is there a single passage in it from beginning to end to glance a probability as to who the writer was. Just like in that letter from that mortgage company. There's no indication of who the natural man or woman in full life is that wrote that letter. It's just an unsigned letter. Notice the pattern, y'all. It is also only guesswork, supposition, and imagination, okay, narrative transportation, that has ascribed it to the apostolic chief of sinners, St. Paul. In other words, the author is saying it's custom and tradition. In other words, somebody said, well, Paul wrote it. But there's no evidence for that. None whatsoever. Well, who said it? Well, the Christians, the Catholic Church. All right? And the author calls him the chief of the apostolic sinners, of all the apostles. He's the worst sinner of them all. Paul is the worst sinner of them all, according to this author. And upon this mere guess, many of our English Bibles and Testaments entitle it, quote unquote, the Epistle of Paul, the Apostle to the Hebrews. In other words, they just deceived you. They just told an outright lie. Because in the Greek, let me show you the Greek word. Now, the author tells you on page 240, the last paragraph, he says, in the Greek manuscripts and in all authentic translations from the Greek, It is perfectly anonymous. In other words, nobody knows who this author is. Why? How can the author say that? He tells you. It is called and here's the Greek. So there's the Greek, the first word in Greek. Y'all see it? Pause it on the replay. Now go to the top of the page. And here it is in the Greek. And here's what it means in English. Here's what it means in English. The Epistle to the Hebrews. There's no author. But yet, the Bible translators, you should be thinking right now, Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 8. The Bible translators, what did they do? To maliciously deceive you into believing this. They translated as what, y'all? Quote, unquote, the Epistle of Paul. The Apostle, the Epistle of Paul, the Apostle to the Hebrews. Notwithstanding the flat contradiction of the subscription that states at the end of it, that it was written by Timothy, i.e. written to the Hebrews from Italy by Timothy. So now there's a contradiction. So what is it? It's the Epistle to the Hebrews, no author. It's written by Paul. But then at the end, it says, written to the Hebrews from Italy by Timothy. In Dr. Lardner's table of the books of the New Testament, this book of the Epistle to the Hebrews is classed under the head of disputed books. Disputed books, of which definition he defines. So Dr. Lardner defines that it is one of those which should be allowed to be read in Christian assemblies for the edification of the people, but not to be alleged as affording alone sufficient proof of any doctrine. Y'all hear that? Yeah, you can read it to upbuild the people, but it's not real. It's not authentic. Okay, that is, as I understand the definition, it will do to be read in Christian assemblies where anything will do. In other words, you can read anything for the edification of the people. That is, as I understand it, the building them up, the building up of the people, the building up of the morality, right? Not morality. Yeah, the morality, to make the people feel good, give them confidence. So read them that, give them confidence, build them up. All right? All right, so for building up the people like blockheads. Why is he saying like blockheads? Because it's not authentic. You just tell them anything to make them feel good. Have them sing a song. Have them listen to music and dance around, jump up and down. Do anything to make them feel good, to build them up. Like blockheads, brainless people. Stocks. Like stocks. These are what? Instruments for trading, right? Commerce. And stones. And stocks can also be wood, right? I forgot about that. Stocks can be wood, like a yoke. And stones into pedestals, into steps, stepping stones, stairs for priests to play the God on. Yeah, make them feel good. Tell them anything. Build them up so we can walk all over them. The more they feel good about this doctrine, the better they feel about it, the more confidence they have in it, the more we can extract from them. Be it sex, be it control, whatever it is that they want. You're just a stepping stone. The time at which Dr. Lander, the highest authority in the judgment of Christians that could possibly be quoted, at that time. Whatever he said was what it is. Supposes or guesses, for it's all guesswork. Isn't that interesting? That this epistle to the Hebrews might have been written in the spring, in the spring, spring, March 22nd, Aries, the ram, written in the spring, the sun passes over the celestial equator on March 22nd, the beginning of spring, and enters into the kingdom of the heavens, right? That ark, the royal ark, written in the spring of the year of our era, 63. So there's the 6 and the 3 again. 6 and 3 is 9, right? 6 reduces to 3. You got 2. 3 plus 3 is 3, plus another 3, 3, 3, 3. For those of y'all who know what that means. So, but even still, we're back to 3, 6s, and 9s. And look at this, y'all. At the bottom of the page, what do we see? 11. The 2 covenants. The spring equinox and the fall equinox. Spring equinox is the covenant of work or labor. The fall equinox is the covenant of grace. Y'all see that? All right. So let's continue. As I, with as good a right and better reason for guessing than Dr. Lardner, should guess that it might have been written in the autumn. There's your fall equinox, in the autumn of the year, 63,000 years before our common era. So there's the 1 and the 1, the number 11, the 2 covenants. Covenant of work and labor, which is the spring or vernal equinox, and then the covenant of grace, where you have full access to your birthright, everything given to you for free, which is the autumn or fall equinox. Okay, y'all? My reason for guessing that it was written in autumn being the strong symptoms that the epistle itself contains. So in other words, the letter to the Hebrews contains hints or indications that it was written in the autumn, in autumn. Let's learn more. Of having been written when wine was cheap. So when is something cheap? Well, when you have a large supply of something, it's cheap, right? The price is low. It becomes expensive when the supply is low, either naturally low, honestly low rather, or artificially made low. The price will increase, okay? And when he who was so anxious to edify others was pretty well edified himself. So now he's saying Paul may have been drunk. And I guess it to have been written so many ages ago in honor to humanity and honor to man, or maybe he means humanity. Let's keep reading. Which should but ill brook the affront of supposing that such stuff as this epistle consists of could have possibly come into respectability after mankind, or is it man? We will soon see, had acquired the faculty of reason. Oh, maybe he's talking about mankind had acquired the faculty of reason, right? Because that's the Neanderthal. Remember, that was genetic engineering. Genesis chapter 1, the created creature. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. This is the creation, not the forming, as in transforming from one type of energy or consciousness to another. This was a whole new consciousness or a whole new being made, which was the Han-Uman, which is which is the human, which is a contracted form, a contracted spelling of Han-Uman, which is the Neanderthal, which is the caveman, which is the troglodyte, the hybrid troglodyte nigger, the Paleolithic caveman. Y'all see it? Who had to what? He had to be engineered. There's a genetic engineering process, okay, where he had to acquire the phenotype, the looks and attributes of a man over hundreds of years, or maybe thousands, who knows, maybe hundreds. Okay, this is a Yaqub story, right? Remember, this was a long-term project to get the hybrid to the state that it's in now, but now it's been in decline, physically and morally. Y'all can even see that with the birth rate, right? So anyway, let's continue. All right. Next paragraph. At the same time, I have no quarrel against the guess of any other person who might guess with equal force of presumption, of presumptive evidence. In other words, if you got some evidence and your guess or your conclusions based upon that evidence differ from his, he doesn't have a problem with it. That it was given yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock, if that's what you say, he's okay with that. As he might urge that it begins with the express date, quote unquote, in these last days. Well, when is that? That's so ambiguous. Who can argue with what your guess is from another person's guess, right? Quote unquote, in these last days, and it is certain that none other than yesterday and the day before were these last days. Literally speaking, y'all, do you see it? Literally speaking, yesterday and the day before, these last days. But we tend to think what? Something completely different, okay, by last days. Continue. We're thinking last days in terms of prophecy, end of the world prophecy, right? End of the world, the last days, okay? And it ends in the last chapter. So the letter to the Hebrews ends in the last chapter with an equally explicit indication of date, that we shall consider the end of the conversation. Jesus Christ the same yesterday. Jesus Christ the same yesterday. That we should consider the end of the conversation. Jesus Christ the same yesterday. Okay? All right. What does that mean, y'all? Page 248. The result of all the guessing and of all the critical research and learning into the world, throwing us up this melancholy fact that mankind must have been frightened out of their wits. So is he talking about man or the Han-Uman, right? Must have been frightened out of their wits, and our madhouses have been filled, and our churches and chapels, which are but halfway houses to the madhouses. So in other words, if you are a religious person, you are halfway already in the crazy house. It's just going to take something to trigger you, to lose your mind, like what happened to my friend who developed early onset schizophrenia. So actually, I thought about this. I remember that our ancestors created these religions for the hybrids. So he is talking about mankind or the human, okay? Genesis chapter 1 created creature. All right? Whereas Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, man and the man with the womb, we are consciousness transformed, right? The second law of thermodynamics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is only transformed. So we were thought made manifest from the soil, right? Or thought transferred to flesh, clothed in flesh, made manifest from the soil. Okay, y'all? There's a big difference. Where are we? Okay. So the result of all the guessing and of all the critical research and learning in the world throwing us up this melancholy fact that mankind must have been frightened out of their wits, and our madhouses have been filled, and our churches and chapels, which are but halfway houses to the madhouses, crowded by persons who have believed that they themselves or others had trodden under the foot of the Son of God. And that's a shame when the more believes that, right? Because of who the more is. It's a shame when the more believes this. And all the rest of this hideous orgy, upon the authority of some scratchings and scramblings of an old goat skin, stretched by the nails of some drunken bacchano, that would be the priest, pastor, imam, right? Rabbi, of whom nobody can guess who he was between Jack Sprat or Jack anybody. And nobody can guess when within any 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 years ago who wrote this letter to the epistles. The rule with Christians being invariably this, that the less they know about anything, the wiser they take themselves to be. In other words, they don't have any shame in being ignorant. Okay, because what? The strength is in belief. How much you can believe without questioning, without using your intelligent brain, your faculty of critical thinking and analytical thinking. How much you can accept something, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, and no matter how much your reasoning mind is telling you, don't do it, or something's wrong with this, you do it anyway. Because for you, the most important thing is believing. Even when it goes against nature and it goes against your own mind. This is what the author is talking about. And the more profoundly ignorant, the more fervently religious. And I agree with the author 110% on that. I know all about that from my experience. Just not my personal life, but my experience with people who were also in religion. All right? Thank y'all for joining me. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm tired. Assalamu alaikum, Islam to all the more. Shalawama. See y'all on the next one.